going to honor my roles to all of these different people. And so you write down a goal to be accomplished. Most people get into a crisis mode of doing daily planning, and I'm telling you, if you do daily planning, you're going to end up putting second things first, and first things second, and then eventually you'll come to regret it. And you won't bond with your kids like you otherwise should. And I'll tell you, no one on their deathbed wished they'd spent more time at the office or watching television or going to socials. What they care about, and I've studied the deathbed research, is their loved ones.
In your list, I didn't hear you mention kind of time for yourself, for recharging and taking care of yourself. Where do you include that?
I think that's very, very important. That's habit 7, that you have time for yourself, for meditation, for reading, for exercise, and for getting into nature, just so that you can renew your own batteries. I think that is very important. I'm glad you brought that up.
In addition to making a family mission statement, I also like the idea of creating an educational mission statement. Can you guide us through some steps that can help us discover what our educational philosophy is?
Well, there's 4 parts of our nature.
Say that again?
There's 4 parts to our nature: our body, our mind, our heart, and our spirit.
Yes.
So for the body, you want to take good care of that. So for the mind, you want to get into an ethic of constant education, and that there's discipline and accountability and social support that are all involved in this process, and that the education involves leaving your comfort zone and learning fields that you may have no interest in at all. The key, and I think one of the fundamental things about the concept of homeschooling, is to have the children teach each other and to teach the parents what they themselves are learning. When you teach, you learn twice. And if you teach, for instance, the older child teaches the younger child a particular subject, or a child may teach the parent a particular subject, even though the parent directed the initial learning process. The key is to have them teach. The more they do that, the less their interest in the subject matters. Because what matters is that they're actually learning, and it creates a learning ethic in the family culture. So I call them to live, to love, to learn, to leave a legacy. Those are the 4 areas of a family mission statement. To live, that is the physical, economic. To love, the quality of the relationships. To learn, the educational ethic. And to leave a legacy, that means to serve and to contribute. To matter, so that you tap into the spiritual needs of people as well as their mental and emotional and physical needs.
In your book, you write about how today's culture is not very family-friendly. What can we do to counter this?
I think that by attending to all 4 areas on a consistent, regular basis, so that there is a lot of fun in the family, so that people enjoy each other, that you invite friends over to have fun, and you get to know your children's friends, and that you gradually get cousins or adopted cousins, other neighbors or people that you care a lot about. You try to involve grandparents. Grandparents can play a tremendously significant role. Sandra and I get very involved with each of our grandchildren, and that means we have to do long-range planning when you have this large of a family. And you have to get to know them and to learn to listen to them and to remember their special events and their key achievements. But above all, to listen to them so that they sense, hey, I'm valued independent of anything that I do. Just because of who I am listened to, and my grandfather or my grandmother care. So, and same thing with aunts and uncles. So the more you develop an intergenerational 3 and 4 generation family, that becomes your culture, rather than getting seduced by all of these destructive influences that are pervading the wider social culture, driven mostly by entertainment and by evil things like pornography, which I think is the drug of the 21st century and is so devastating to people's minds and hearts, far beyond what most people have any idea of. And to avoid duplicity and hypocrisies, but they're paraded in front of us, in front of the media constantly. And the way we got rid of television in our family is that I just showed data to the children at one of these family meetings from good, hard research data. And I said, these are the impact of constant television viewing on learning, on relationships, on family cultures, on physical exercise, on diet. These are the fruits of these things. Now, you kids, you decide what you want to do. Mom and I will sustain your decisions. We literally walked out of the room. They said, oh, we know what you're trying to do. You're trying to get rid of television. You're always on our backs about that. No, we will sustain your decisions. Just look at the data. And after about 2 hours, and you could hear a lot of hot discussions taking place in there, they agreed to 1 hour a day per person for a week. That's 7 hours a week total. And that Maria was identified as the enforcer, so that anyone, and it was all based on the honor code, that violated that 7 hours a week told Maria, and they had to lose all television privileges for a period of a month. And literally, the net effect of this is that we hardly had any television on school nights. They would watch a movie and a basketball or football game, usually on the weekends, and that was about it. And then we had our kids teach us regularly what they were learning in each of their classes. And that consumed most of our evenings, our school nights.
You're talking about television. I live here in California, and Governor Schwarzenegger, his children do not watch TV during the week.
Yeah.
Even though he's a movie star, his children aren't allowed to watch television except on the weekends.
Right.
You know, you're talking, you're the king of win-win. Can you really go think and act win-win with our children?
Absolutely. Now, that doesn't mean that all decisions are win-win. The key is that the relationship is win-win, because as a parent, based on your experience and wisdom, you may make some decisions they don't like, such as the one you just mentioned about Governor Schwarzenegger and his wife Maria not allowing any television on school nights. That may have been a very unpopular decision. They would call that a win-lose decision. But the way it was announced to them, the way it was explained, the kindness that was shown, so that the relationship was always win-win, even though the decision may not have been win-win in the short run. In the long run, they'll probably see it as a win-win decision. But little kids often and teenagers often will not see all decisions as win-win. Just don't lose your cool and become impatient and then start making judgments and stereotyping them in a particular way. I remember I was teaching IBM executives up in Armonk, New York one time, talking about the self-fulfilling prophecies of how people see themselves. And we had a son that was kind of out of it socially, athletically, academically, and it was embarrassing. And so I said to myself, physician, heal thyself. Maybe the problem is not your boy, but the perception you have of your son based on his behavior. And maybe he's a late bloomer. Maybe you don't spend the time to listen to him. So I called up Sandra, and I told her this kind of epiphany. I came home and talked to her about it, and she agreed. We both worked diligently to build a one-on-one relationship with this boy and to stop judging him. But you know what? The toughest part of what we had to go through is our own motives. We had to change our motive. We found that our motive was to win kind of public acceptance based on our kids' good behavior. And the more we thought about that motive, it was so inconsistent with our value which is